freaking live. Beautiful. Beautiful. Mike Cannon. What's up, brother? How
What's
are
up,
you,
buddy?
man?
Good. How are you?
Dude, I'm great, man. You have slowly but surely, I think, become one of my favorite people in comedy. If I will say something very nice right off the bat, man.
Really?
Yeah.
When did that happen?
I think so.
Thank you, by the way, because I like you too.
So, I think, initially when we met, probably, 3 years ago or something like that, 2.5 maybe.
Outside of Fat Black or Black Cat?
No, that's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
So, Mike, for those of you who guys don't know Mike, if you guys are tuning in and you're fans of Mike, what's up? I'm Ted Jones here, and I'm hanging with Mike Cannon. If you guys tune into the Ted Jones World podcast, you'll notice that the last few episodes, we have not had a guest. We've done probably anywhere from I'd say probably 10 to 12 episodes, just me here.
Nice.
So it's nice and refreshing.
You're getting your sea legs, though. I think that's valuable. I think it's valuable to have your own show and do solo episodes.
I think so, too, because there was initially such a pressure within the first 2 years. I've been doing this now 2.5 years, but just focusing so hard on getting a guest, and even if it wasn't, I mean, obviously any guest comes on here, but there were just sometimes where yeah, sure, come on, just talk with me, whatever it was. But yeah, man, it's been great, really just doing it myself, I guess.
Yeah, dude, this is so. Before we get into why I'm one of your favorite person, I'll tell you why you've quickly grown in my heart.
Go ahead.
I think your whole thing is so funny, man. The Ted Jones World T-shirt, no matter what, every single time I see you, whether it's by surprise or planned, you're wearing a piece of your merch.
Yes.
And then I go to your I use your bathroom. And on the mirror is a Ted Jones World podcast sticker in case he forgets.
Yes.
In case he forgets. And that I took a picture of because I enjoyed it so much. and then I turned around and on the wall is the very same Ted Jones World podcast sticker. Just in case, for that split second, you lost consciousness and forgot.
Did you also see that picture in there, me smoking a cigar like that? All right, so that was done at Step Into the Light. This was probably, I don't know if you actually ever did the show. Maybe you did. This is funny. So Step Into the Light was a show that Fat Baby was doing probably about 2.5, 3 years ago.
Oh, no
kidding. It for a little bit at a VR spot. Do you remember that?
I definitely didn't do it.
So
that sounds cool, though.
They had a slow film photographer, if that's what it's called. Mm-hmm. So that picture in the bathroom is made out of kind of the material that I don't know is on a credit card.
Oh, okay, cool.
Tin kind of things.
That's sweet.
So there you go, dude. But anyway, we'll get back to why I enjoy your presence, man. I think just in general, man, you come in, give great eye contact, great shakes. You're a nice guy. You're not out here thinking that you're cooler than anyone, man. And
no, that's for sure.
And I think that sometimes I notice this with comics, whether it's not eye contact initially or it's just
now I'm trying extra hard to look in your eyes.
What I mean? But I think that just it says a lot about a person, and when I like a person and when a person does that, I respect them way more, and I want them to be involved in my life. No homo or anything, bro.
Sure, no, I wouldn't mind either way.
I think it's just nice to have a conversation with somebody, and them, being on the same playing field. I'd say that goes for everything in general.
Yeah.
If your manager talks down to you or something like that, you're like, why are you talking down to me? Let's get something done together on the same.
Let's first
vibration.
Acknowledge that we're both human beings, and then move forward from there. Sure. I think eye contact in particular is a lost art, and when I was growing up, I thought my parents were fucking nuts because they were crazy, eye contact. Yeah. Every time you meet an adult, parent of your friend, whoever it might be, principal, teacher, anything, you're looking them in the eye because it's an immediate sign of respect. Yeah. And they were just drilling that into me as a kid. And I always thought, I was like, Jesus Christ, get over it, relax. Totally. And then as you grow up and you notice the younger generations having more and more difficulty socially, and the flying of their eyes, and you never really get to be like, hey, we're people. I acknowledge we're both people. It's very important. I tell it to my 2-year-old son.
Right, but do you think that is lack of parenting, or people just kind of floating in the universe, being like, all right, well, I wasn't taught these specific manners, but I think that I am this way, so this is how I should act on the inside.
I think it's twofold. I think definitely maybe it's not stressed in people's homes. Maybe they don't think it's important, which is totally fine. I disagree, but that's perfectly fine. But then the other thing is people do now feel very comfortable in making you hold their mental illness socially. You know what I mean?
How do you mean by
like
that?
People just being like, hi, I'm crazy, you deal with it.
Right.
Like they feel no pressure socially to fit in a little bit, to at least make the eye contact and be cordial and human and recognize you as another person.
Yeah.
They're just spiraling off the earth and they're like, you deal with it. Yeah.
So I think that also in comedy, there's a lot of that, because
That's more what I mean. Is not even because I don't talk to regular people all that much. I mean comedians who are also
you're
ramped
on
up
stage,
narcissists.
You're exposing how crazy you are, and then off stage, you're like, okay, well, I just told you how crazy I am, so freaking deal with it right here in the real life scenario.
Exactly.
Speaking of the scenario, here's the scenario, your podcast.
Yeah.
Mike Feeney and Brendan Sagalow. So talk a little bit about that when you guys started doing that, because I know that you had a conspiracy theory podcast. You can touch on that, but you've been doing podcasts for years, man, so obviously you're very natural here on air, and talk a little bit about that, please.
So here's the scenario. I mean, we started during lockdown, like right when that first started, because we had Mike and I, or Feeney and I, had been doing a podcast together called Irish Goodbye Podcast. It was a storytelling podcast. It was very personal, and we had guests sometimes, but for the most part, it was like really following our lives personally through 3 years or however long we did it, almost 250 episodes. Wow. And we were on Gas Digital, which, I'm about to do Legion of Skanks after this.
Yeah, I was just quick interruption here. I was like, Mike, you're doing back-to-back podcasts. So today is Monday. We're going to be on the way to the Ted Jones Comedy Show after this. I don't know if you're going to come with, but Mike is doing a podcast, Legion of Skanks at 8 p.m. So he's doing back-to-back.
Yeah, that's light work, dude. That's light. I like talking into a microphone. I have a lot of bullshit to say. But so we were doing that show and it was going really well, but there was it just felt like it had come to an end. You know what I mean? It ran kind of the gamut in terms of what we thought the show was going to be, the growth, etc. And we were just like, hey, while we're in flux and in this change, why don't we end this show? And then Brendan has always been a frequent guest on Irish Goodbye. He's like a fan favorite. Okay. The three of our chemistry together is very good, and it's almost a little Always Sunny-ish in the sense that we're very combative with each other, but it's all backed by love, but we're just arguing relentlessly. And it's very fun. So he was a natural third mic, and this is just a hypothetical show where we do like what if scenarios submitted by our listeners, and they basically build the show for us, and it turns into a debate over fantasy, which is pretty fun because everything is so heavy. I'm not smart enough to talk politics or social issues.
We don't like politics. Unless we're like, Donnie sucks.
Unless it's the safest message.
But yeah, I mean, you talk about like crazy subjects that you guys talk about. I know one time you were asked, a question about Mike Tyson, and you were like, at what age do you think you can beat his ass?
Sure.
So you said 6.5.
Yeah.
Do you still stick with that? You don't think you can beat him up when he's 8 years old?
No, I don't. I don't think right now, especially. Like there was a time in my life when I was like peak virile and like, in my 20s and super in the gym, I could kick the shit out of 8-year-old Mike Tyson. Sure. Now it's gone the other way where I'm 36, I'm brittle. Okay. And if 8-year-old Mike Tyson caught me, that's it.
You can hold him down, though. All right, interesting story.
But I bet he's like 140 pounds when he was
so my tutor for like a few years he was like head of the public school education after school program. So he would get a lot of kids that like were a little bit slow on learning. Maybe their reading level wasn't that good, whatever it was. So when Mike Tyson was, I believe it was 11 years old, Mike Tyson was having like a one-on-one session with him. And Mike was so pissed off, he didn't want to deal with it because he did sessions in Brownsville. Like that. He went all over New York City. He held down Mike Tyson apparently for 20 minutes.
Wow.
Until like another assistant or someone came in the room and like helped them fight out. Like Mike was back and forth.
No shit.
Guy, he's like a bigger guy, but like I can imagine that you could probably take him anyway.
Maybe.
And he's also, and you're younger than him now. Like he was probably 50 at the time, something like that. I imagine you could take 11-year-old Mike. Once he started boxing, though, dude, that's when I think I'd lose faith in you.
So the reason why I go so young with him is because I know he started robbing people when he was like 7. Like he was like robbing adults
with like knives and stuff.
Like fists, like at fist point. That's how he would rob people on the street when he was like a kid. So I just with that information,
Yeah, that's tough. Okay,
I don't know. Maybe I could probably walk through 8-year-old Mike Tyson.
Yeah, no, I think so too. I think once in maybe 11, like I was surprised to hear that he'd be able to hold him down for 20 minutes.
Yeah, like I don't buy it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely less than that. Or like maybe he had help or something like that. I don't know, but it's also a pretty good, like, cool story to lie about.
Sure. Yeah,
like,
but
yeah, dude, I held Mike Tyson down for 20 minutes. He was 11 years old. I can fuck him up.
It's different because I'm 6'1", but I'm also like 175 pounds.
Yeah, we're like the same build.
So I'm pretty light. Whereas, Mike Tyson, even if he was 130 pounds at 11 years old, I feel like that 40 pounds for me isn't enough.
Right. Okay.
That's just my thought.
So, you talked briefly about having, what is it, a 2-year-old now?
Yeah.
So you're going to talk a little bit about fatherhood. And also, I mean, I checked out your, I want to say it's like a documentary timing on Amazon Prime.
Oh, that was a movie. It was so I used my real name, but it was a feature. Like, it's not my story.
So just to quickly describe that, it's on Amazon Prime, and it's basically, dude, it kind of honestly feels like what I am personally going through right now.
No kidding.
Maybe taking the next step with a girl, if it's like a girlfriend or somebody you're seriously hooking up with, it feels like any time that you spend, if you're like on a date from 7 p.m. and then you spend the night with her to 11 p.m. Think about how much comedy you miss. You could have missed 4 spots that like you were just gonna walk through the stand, maybe go to the cellar,
right?
Maybe you wanted to go, I don't know, see an improv show, whatever it is. It's just like it seems that all the time. And then the one night you don't go was the night to be there. Chris Rock was there, Dave Chappelle was there.
Yeah,
you were networking with everyone, freaking whatever, following them on Instagram, whatever it is. So just kind of talk about how maybe having a child enriched your life, man.
Yeah,
and also like got you a little bit self-conscious because, dude, you were still able to record, hour specials and kill it on YouTube, Instagram, whatever it is.
I mean, so having when my wife got pregnant, like an immediate switch went off in the sense that, I didn't change drastically the fiber of who I am, but I immediately got really serious and understood that this is now real life and not fuck around shit, where it's like up until that point I've lived a pretty charmed, immature life. I was a comic. It is that thing where in the beginning especially you have to be so insane about it that if you do miss a night, it could be it. Like, it feels that way, and it kind of is true. That's how much you have to devote yourself, at least if you want to be a stand-up. Now it's completely different with, like, content and stuff like that. Yes. But, that... I happened to have a child at the right time in my career where I was established, but I also could press on the gas even more, and I found a new gear once that responsibility came. So once my wife was pregnant, I immediately thought about my next project, what I need to do, how I can make money, how I can diversify my stream of income, etc. Because my biggest fear before comedy, during comedy, and currently is having to stop because of family shit. You know what I mean? Like, my dad was an actor and he didn't make it, and he loudly blamed us. Like, we've had a current conversation about it where he doesn't think he did, but it might have been out of anger. It might have been whatever. I understand frustration and all that shit, but it for sure happened. Like, he definitely had said something like that, but also he just didn't have the work ethic. He didn't know how to establish himself all that well. So I want to make sure that no, it's cool. I want to make sure that, like, my stance in this business is not, did you press record or you didn't? That's funny.
I did press record. Imagine if I did. I pressed record on the center one, but this is just the vlog cam over here. Dude, imagine I did record. We were having the best conversation of all time. Recording, brother. Guys, you also have to excuse this is a 2-in-1 studio, so sometimes fucked up shit happens. But dude, also this is something that, like, you hear from older people who regret shit. They're like, I wish I. So you never want to regret shit, but also at the same time, like, you don't want to blame people.
Of course,
or your career failings. That's one of the worst things you could put on someone, and then also it's the worst thing I think to circle around in your head. Like, oh well, if this person didn't do this and that and shit. Like, I don't know if you know, but I used to work for my dad's company for 5.5 years. Mm-hmm. So within the last, I stopped working at his company on April 1st, like 2021. Not even joking with the
no
April
kidding
1st stuff. Yeah.
Wow.
So
not even joking.
Yeah. So my life, man, like right before quarantine, so right before like March 2020, I was thinking I wanted to kind of wrap it up, and by summer, I'd be doing this full time. But I ended up staying at the company almost a full year later, just because like there was so much interwebbed with me starting to do this podcast here, comedy shows, vlog, whatever it is, that it's just like. The burden of other people kind of relying on me to do something I didn't want to do was there.
Sure.
So it was tough to get out of that mix. But like once you kind of focus on, I mean, you tell me if I'm wrong, but like once you kind of focus on what you want to do and you have like an addition, like a great child or something like that, it kind of just meshes things together in a great way, right?
Yeah, I mean, it can. I think it also can do the exact opposite.
Have you seen that in like comedians, like they have a kid and then like that they're gone. That's it. And they were right there.
But no, not people that were like right there. People that kind of like were not hobbyists or whatever, but just not like you could just tell like they had a ceiling and they were mostly going to be probably doing it for fun for the rest of their lives, which is fine.
Yes.
Stand up is fucking fun. I'm not one of those people that's like, get out of the way if you're not determined to make all this money. You know what I mean? It's like do whatever you got to do. I'm not one to tell anybody how to spend their time, but I've seen those people like have kids and then they're like, all right, I did stand up for a few years, kind of a cool story to tell my kid, which that's what it is for a lot of people. But if you are a career stand up and a career comedian and it's something that you're building your life around and it's not just conditional based on your life circumstance, then yeah, you just find a way to uber focus. Coordinate your time, and I am not an organized person at all, but I've had to become one, or at least somebody who can follow a schedule and, and really just get the most out of your time that you possibly can.
So speaking of, the name of the movie, Timing, did you feel that like your character was so worried about commitment? Did you feel like that character when you were playing it?
Yeah, I mean, because I've never been single while doing comedy. I've been with my wife when she was my girlfriend ever since I started, basically. I think I did like 3 open mics without her. Like that was it. But there were times when I know that it was definitely a struggle for her. It had to have been me giving all of my time to this thing and her just being mostly just green lights, completely cool, like absolutely. But then, there are times when everyone needs more attention or some sort of like, hey, this isn't really working the way it is. Let's try to figure it out. And it's that thing where you're like, okay, am I gonna be the comic that got a divorce or broke up with the right one and is just continuing doing comedy either successfully or unsuccessfully? It doesn't even matter at that point. Or am I gonna find a way to try to have both? It's really hard, man, but there are ways, in my opinion, and to have both.
So at what time in your career did you fully have like an hour ready to go? And I know that you did one at the Comedy Cellar, and now you're kind of in the mix of trying to figure out where you're going to do your next one.
Yeah.
But when did you first have that hour, and how did you kind of find time around your schedule to create this hour? Did it start at like, okay, now I have 15 minutes. Oh, great. Now I have 30 minutes. Now it's 45. All right, great. I got an hour. Let's figure out where the shit I'm going to go.
So I came up at a different time than you because we came up and there was no like... there was no real, podcasting was a thing, but that was a supplement to everything. So it was all stand up and you built in kind of a linear way where like you might do a late night, you do a half-hour special, then you do an hour and like things like that, get guest appearance on panel shows on MTV, Comedy Central. That's how you started to build your resume. Now it's a complete digital world and that's different. So I was just non-linearly writing jokes and I accumulated a lot of material, but I also lost a lot of it because I had no plan for it. So I was just writing shit. Right. And then once I realized that certain industry things were just not going to happen for me, or at least not at that, like at the half hour. I submitted to the half hour a bunch of times, never got booked for it. They had interest. They liked me, supposoly.
This was like a half hour on Comedy Central.
Yeah.
That was really the only thing available.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, there was other stuff like Epics was starting to do stand up and,
like Access too, maybe.
Access, Gotham Comedy Live, I know, which I did do. And, Comedy Central had a few showcase shows, but for all of that, right? Didn't get Adam Devine's house party, didn't get a half hour, was approved for a late night, and then they ghosted me, and it just never happened.
The late night's usually like 5 to 7 minutes, no?
Right.
Okay.
But even that, like, so I was doing all these I had my podcast, and I was then a regular guest on like Opie and Anthony, Opie and Jim
Sure,
and
like
you know,
Flagrant too.
that was later. But like, I was in the serious world where I had started to accumulate followers and, you know, fans or people interested in my work. And then I realized that like all I had out there was radio shit. So they didn't even know what I do. So then I got the goal in my head where I'm not waiting for anything. Fuck this shit. It's cool. If they want to book me, they'll book me. I can make a tape out of what I'm going to do for myself, because I'm not allowing you to drive my ambition anymore. Like, you're not setting my goals. I am.
Yeah.
So I started to build the hour, and then I demanded that I was a headliner. I got into a few clubs as a headliner, and then I just refused to feature after that and was just building myself as a headliner, doing the time. And it was about a year of that where finally I was like, and not even finally, that's really early to only be headlining a year and then put out an album. Yeah. I was like, I got to do it because I have an hour. It's killing. I want to turn this part of my life over. It was right as I was getting married. So I've done kind of transitional big life moment hours. Like, my first hour was as I was getting married. Then my second hour was as I was having my son. And now my third one is he's 2. He's a toddler. So you're kind of like, and I'm very personal. So you're watching it unfold.
Giving you like definitely like every year you're getting new material.
Oh yeah. Sure. I mean, now I have my third, I had my third like early, and then life changed. Obviously, the fucking pandemic happened. Yeah. We moved in with my in-laws for like a year. All this shit started going on, which I realized that my third hour that I had written so quickly was more or less just an extension with no growth to the second one. And now the shit is like major life shift. Yeah. So it's totally different. And it's almost like, you know, that's what I needed. Right. For the jump.
And going in there and headlining, you were definitely getting so many gigs. Guys, speaking of Mike Cannon headlining, I am featuring, opening, hosting for Hannah Berner in Bridgeport, Connecticut tonight.
Oh,
Hope
no
to
shit.
See you guys out there. Yeah, so I'm doing like 10 on top, and then hosting and featuring. So
very cool.
Fun. If you guys are in Bridgeport, Connecticut, get your tickets at
the Stress Factory?
HannahBerner.com. Yeah, have you been there?
I've not been to the Connecticut one, but I've been to Jersey.
Right?
Yeah, the Jersey one's great.
Cool, man. So yeah, I mean, for the most part, I hear exactly what you're saying, and I think like the more you're looking into your life, you know, getting new material, there's new shit happening every day. Something dumb, funny, whatever, something that you can drag out a story. And so I hopefully, you know, one day I'm looking forward to record that hour, have that hour ready to go. But you know, it's stepping stones. A few minutes
of course.
Each week.
How long have you been doing stand-up?
So stand-up, I mean, you probably saw me one of the first times I was really doing stand-up at the Black Hat.
So like 3 years.
Yeah, and I've been doing improv for, I mean, I first took my initial improv class probably, I was taking improv and acting classes in college, and then once I got out, I was taking classes at UCB, kind of stopped for a year and a half, and then like a year and a half before the pandemic, I took UCB classes for like a full year and a half, was in the mix trying to get attached to like a Lloyd team, or I don't know how familiar you are.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, so basically these teams would perform once a week at the UCB Hell's Kitchen Theater, and then the pandemic happened. So like this kind of time right before the pandemic was like, okay, I really like improv. Okay, I like comedy. I'm kind of in the mix there. I have a podcast that I'm just starting. So I like this avenue, what I'm doing. So we'll see. Maybe I can do half-time at my dad's company, whatever. And then the pandemic hit. And there was the company that I work for is a real estate company. Okay. So shit hit the fan everywhere. Yeah. Nobody could pay rent. The stores couldn't pay. You know, for the most part, you know, my dad has done very well in real estate, but like he was, you know, funding the mortgage stuff. Like, shit was really at a crazy point that I kind of felt like, all right, I got to help my dad out here. Sure. Whatever that is. So whether that was me putting my life on hold for a year, or whether that was not me kind of not really ready for anything, but like starting, you know, a whole new career in March 2020 or April 2020 in a career where like it's tough to make money in general. Yeah. It's like not the greatest decision of my life. Yeah. Even if it was, you know, like doing stand-up full-time, vlogs, podcasts, comedy shows, whatever it is, it's tough. You know, I find myself just doing a lot of shit every day where there's like an issue. You know, there's something that pops up, but it's my issue, and I fucking love dealing with it, as opposed to like, oh, this fucking tenant's being annoying. I got to go yell at them on the phone. Like, dude, I don't want to yell at you. You know, poor person, rent stabilized, whatever it is. I don't want to deal with this. Like, I want to kind of have control over whatever I'm putting out. Whatever.
Yeah, totally. Well, that's also it's good that you helped your dad, like just in general, but also comedy was not to be had during that time anyway. So it was kind of a perfect, perfect opportunity to be like, all right, I'm selflessly.
Dude, also like the Zoom mic shows, man. I never ended up doing one of those. Did you hear about people who were doing them or what?
I mean, I've done like corporate, so I did not do
corporate. That's amazing.
Yeah, I didn't do stand up aside from like really high paying corporate gigs, which were awful. But I'll take a lot of money to bomb in my living room.
You standing in front of the MacBook Pro and just like with a fake microphone, or you had?
No, I had my microphone, so I had like my whole podcast set up so it sounded good and like all that shit. Okay. But it was just me sitting in front of like a brick wall and just
how much time did they have you do?
An hour.
An hour?
An hour. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Thank God I've podcasted so much, dude, because I could just not shut up.
By yourself, right? Yeah. So you had all these people watching on Zoom, or like it was hidden and you were just the main.
It was all those people. So I like pulled them all up gallery mode. You know, I could have had it just on me and been fine. But I needed to see the reactions, and there were some really generous, charitable people in that Zoom, and then there were people that were like
rocking back and forth.
Dude, visibly there were people like like unsure.
Wait, but how did you do in that session for an hour? You felt
it was terrible. It was to know.
Wait,
I mean,
was it terrible?
It was fine in the sense that I thought I was funny. Yes. Like I thought I was funny, important. But it was like it wasn't satisfying at all. You know,
you were probably on mute, right?
Sometimes, but sometimes you'd hear like a baby scream. Like it was chaotic, but it was money.
It's funny what really interrupts comedy shows. I know that like you, for the most part, have a bone to pick with people and they're walking in front of the stage and waitresses who just don't know how to handle it. I was thinking about this when I heard you say this. I was like,
did I say this?
Yeah. You said this on the podcast. So I can't remember which one, but you were just fucking talking shit. Oh, it was flagrant too. You were talking shit about the waitresses and some of them just being loud, full conversation.
Yeah.
Two Mandarin guys in the front thinking that they're comedy.
Oh yeah, that was during my special.
What?
That was during the second taping of my special.
Not a comedy show, but like I feel like this could be a good idea. Hear me out. Maybe before you get to the comedy show, you buy your ticket, and then right below that, it's like menu items. So you get seated at table 6, and they know exactly what you want. They're bringing it the good times. And if you want it, you order food and a martini. And if you want to get more food and martini, there's a little fucking button that you press, just like the airplane. Oh, the waitress comes over and says, "Okay, what can I get you?" But not people are going to get the minimum, right? You get a 2-drink minimum, whatever it is at a comedy show. Just get it done right there.
I've had the similar idea. That's great. I love that. I've had the similar rudimentary version of that where I was like, just do it like Alamo Drafthouse. Like have a slip of paper that has the menu on it and you can check next to it.
I mean, that's an great way to do it.
Yes, just no. And I'm not being a dick to wait staff of comedy clubs. Obviously, they help us do what we do. Yeah. I am saying that they don't get tipped on their personalities. They get tipped if the show's good. Because they're not supposed to be talking. Like nobody's supposed to hear them. Yeah. They're not supposed to be funny. Like they're not supposed to be really charming. They're just there to serve the drinks and the food. Yeah. Which that's just that job. Outside in a different restaurant, then you turn on the sales charm.
And then now you're wearing masks too. And you're just seeing the eyes. Probably.
Yeah, exactly. So I just think it would be better. It's also, I think, beneficial for the wait staff because then they don't have to talk to them, which I guarantee they love. Sure love I used to wait tables if I could. If I could remove the point when I talk to the person, that would be ideal. And then also the show's better, so they get tipped better.
You used a notepad, though, when you were a waiter, right?
Yeah. And I still got shit wrong.
Yeah, but who the fuck is doing it without a pad, with their hands behind their back? Like, dude, you better not fuck up my order. I'm vegan, too. Like, there's a little cheese. Don't put the fucking cheese in it. So I'm like, we get so mad. I'm like, all right, you sure you're going to remember this? You sure? And usually they do if they don't have a pad. Because, like, that's an aggressive move to come in hot with no pad.
I got to be honest, dude. I think a high percentage, and I won't say like 90, it's probably like 65, 70% of people that come with no pad fuck up the order. For me.
Really?
Yeah, and they have often where it's like, I just don't trust your brain.
Yeah.
I don't. And it's not your fault. You're just being arrogant.
It's weird.
About your ability to remember.
Why do you need to do that? Like, it's totally cool for you to have a pad of paper.
Yeah.
Even maybe have that electric thing now. I don't know, man.
I remember when I was a waiter, and me and this kid Puyan, my my co-waiter. He's the best. I'm sure he's a fucking rocket scientist right now. But him and I used to smoke weed out of an apple in a porta potty during like slow times. During we were outdoor waiters, and I remember it was pouring rain, so nobody was coming. Obviously, we have a tent, but it's just a fucking monsoon out.
Yeah.
And finally, this table comes over, and I'm just freshly blazed out of my face. Yeah. And I walk over to him, and I got the pad, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, taking their order, and I'm like, cool. And I walk back to the cook, and I look, and I wrote hieroglyphics. Like, dude, I swear to God, I don't know what happened from my brain to my fingers.
How old were you in the 7?
22, like too old. And I was just like, I wrote squiggles, and I had to go back to the table and be like, I know you guys just watched me write that down, but I didn't get it.
Where'd you grow up?
Rockland County, so right outside the city.
Oh, okay. I was thinking Rockland County, Maryland.
No. So I didn't know that was a place. That's cool.
I believe it is.
All right.
Fact check me.
RC,
fucking
Maryland.
Right. But you came into the city a lot as a youngin', or not really?
A little bit, like here for basketball, I did, and
like
yeah, and my and also playing myself.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. So I've played at 4th Street when I was younger.
Damn, the Cage.
Oh yeah.
Cellar. All right.
I never play. I never got to play at Rucker. I think I was supposed to, and then I got hurt. I broke my hand my freshman year. But I played a lot of hoops, and my father worked in the city, and I came in very sparingly. But the weird part about Rockland is it's 19 miles outside of Manhattan, and people really sell its proximity to the city, but nobody really goes.
So do people say when they're from Rockland County, are they like, yeah, I'm from the city? If you're like, maybe
no. They'll actually they'll intentionally separate. They're like, I'm outside the city of Rockland, yeah. But people from the city are like, oh, you're going to the country? It's like it's 19 miles away. Fuck off.
Did you play high school basketball?
Yeah, and 2 years of junior college.
Where junior college?
Rockland Community College.
Okay.
So we played in Maryland. We played Allegheny, which was Steve Francis from Houston Rockets, his school. I mean, we played against like insane D1 talent that just didn't have the grades or whatever.
Wagner or something like that. You played D1 schools or no?
D1 JUCOs. So we would play like go to North Carolina and play whatever community college that had all kids that were going to like Carolina State and UNC, all this. I mean, they were so fucking good. Yeah. I found that I had no business pretty early, but I played for 2 years and then gave it.
Did anyone transfer from your school to like a top D1 college? Because I know that happens a lot.
Not to a top D1, but we had like some D2 guys and
Like just the grades that probably fucked up.
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of we had this one guy named Scally who
his last name, or you called him that?
His first name was Pascal, so we called him Scally. Oh, okay. I actually don't remember I don't remember his last name, but he was like a blue chip talent. Like he was like a 6'8", really long, wildly athletic, but had a soft touch, especially from mid-range when people still did mid-range.
Yeah.
And he was like one of those guys that maybe could have done it, but he just kept getting it in his own way academically and all that other shit.
Did you ever see, or go ahead.
We had another kid, Amarildo, who was from Mozambique.
Amarillo.
Yeah. And he was like a D1 blue chip guy, but I think he went home. I don't know where he went.
Did you ever see that show on Netflix, Last Chance University?
Yeah, so made me cry, man. It made me cry.
Fuck, really?
It really reminded me a lot of.
Which one though? Because I've seen every season.
Oh, so I mean, I watched the football, but I watched the basketball is the one that I had kind of close ties to. They're better than our team was.
Right, well,
like
they were like national champions. I
believe.
Like, that's kind of who they were following around.
Yeah, so I don't want to make it sound like I think I'm more than I am.
But hey, come on, go ahead.
But that like. Just generally playing in a program like that, especially in a small school that people don't necessarily care about, and you're scraping by and trying to get money, and you're trying to get these kids opportunities and academically, and all the kids. Like I'm from Rockland. It was only me and my high school teammate Hansley, who were the two kids from our county that played. Everybody else was from a borough, so everybody else was from Brooklyn, was from Harlem, wherever. Like they were really good citywide talent, and so it didn't feel like I was home. It felt like I went away, and those kids came from kind of tough backgrounds, And so you'd root for them. You'd hope that they'd make it out.
And you stayed on campus, or did you stay at home?
No, at home. Yeah, for 2 years while my parents got a divorce. And a bunch of my friends died, and my grandpa died, and my dog died, all in like 2 years.
Bunch of friends died. Is that a pretty druggy place, or is it not safe?
It was mostly drunk driving, and then some cancer, some like young cancer. A few of them
from like being next to some plant or what?
I don't know, but
easy if we just figure that out right here.
No, I mean we're far enough away from Indian Point, which is the nuclear power plant. But I don't know, to be honest. There was just a stretch of time where a couple kids, like 23-year-olds, just caught vicious cancer and died.
Damn, man.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's crazy.
So what else, man? What else? Let me see what's interesting. Dude, we got a Ted Jones Comedy Show t-shirt for you right here, bro.
Yeah,
because you have freaking done 2 shows now. And, bro, I'd like to ask you on air, man, are you free December 27th at 7 p.m.? If you want to check your calendar later, you let me know.
I already know I'm not, because I'll be in Vermont with my family.
I'm going to put you on that show at the
I appreciate that.
January, we'll figure out
yes,
something.
Yes, absolutely. But I've been taking a vacation probably since Ricky's wedding.
Okay.
Where we hung out.
Yes.
Which was such a fucking good time. God, that was so fun.
That was amazing.
That was my first time to Miami, too.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's quite the experience to have. Did you stay at the Faena where the wedding was, or no? That was a bougie ass hotel, I tell you, man. I didn't stay there.
We must have stayed down the street.
Okay.
I think we stayed down the street where other people were staying.
It was like across the street?
Oh, no, it was on the beach. Yeah.
Wow.
I think it was like, so we may have waited because we didn't know if we were going to be able to do it because, our son was a baby.
Right.
And that was our first weekend away from him.
Oh, wow.
And, so we didn't know. So I think we booked late and we got the main hotel, and then they had the sister hotel or whatever where the leftovers could get a room. Okay. And I think, which was still unreal. That's where
Miami's
we stayed.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So when I went down to Miami, I'm going down also December 14th through 20th. If anybody's down there, any comics listening, you put me on your show. I'd love to do it. So we'll see. Hopefully, I'm getting a couple spots down there. Have one lined up, I believe. But the Miami comedy scene, I wonder if that's going to start to pick up with this digital world that we're living in, with people being able to kind of be everywhere.
Right.
And there aren't so many places down there. I don't know if you've ever done comedy in Miami.
Never. No, I've heard not great things.
Sure. So this is an interesting thought, because you see people are kind of migrating towards I don't know, maybe red states, less regulations if you're talking about COVID. But I don't know. You think the digital world is going to affect comedy in a major way with content? Your website, man.
That yes,
primo.
Yeah.
Do you think people need that kind of shit or what?
Yeah, probably. I mean, in terms of Miami, that kind of has more to do with just what the city is. It's like similarly to New Orleans, where New Orleans doesn't need comedy. That's why it's not a great stand-up scene. Right. It's got great music, great drinking, great partying. It's football, all that shit. It's already has a solidified culture. Miami is similar in the sense that it's partying, coke, Molly, sunshine, the beach, gorgeous trans people, and that's already the defined culture of the area. Yeah. So that's why I think it's similarly to why not a lot of comedians do Hawaii. They don't need to laugh. It's beautiful out.
Right. Okay.
But digitally, yeah, for sure. I mean, then again, Schultz migrates there now in the winter, so he could potentially build a scene like Rogan built Austin.
Right. Yeah.
But I think digitally that's going to allow people to do comedy from anywhere. It's Schultz did go down to Florida last year and just was able to tour out of there, do his stand up, pack a few local shows, do his podcast, all that shit. And it's as if it's not as if he didn't leave anybody's conscious.
Right. I wonder if he is paying taxes down there now. If he's there for more than 6 months out of the year, right? I mean, is that something that he's thinking about right now? Maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know how that works with the tax forms and
that's comics. And that's
shit,
why LeBron went there.
Yeah, literally for a moment. So what would you say is the biggest medium for you right now in terms of social media? I've been talked about on this podcast how I think eventually we're going to have everything kind of merge where you can find someone's Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, but it's all in one app.
Sure.
It's not like you use the link tree and you see all the things right there embedded. I think that it's going to somehow be some app comes in and, takes the data from your YouTube, takes the data from Instagram, and kind of makes it all beautiful, meshed into one kind of page.
The metaverse.
Some sort of like app like that. Do you think there's one that's the most important?
I don't know if it's important, but I do know the one that I'm most quote unquote successful on is TikTok. And, stand-up just seems to do pretty well on that, especially if it looks nice and it sounds nice and it's high quality. But all of it is what we have to do. Like, it's all about casting a wide net and trying to get as many people as you can from anywhere you can, because, you could write off Facebook and say it's for old people or whatever. But fact of the matter is there might be couple hundred to 1,000 to whatever people that like your shit on Facebook. So if you could possibly get your stuff out to them, why wouldn't you? So I mean, I'm focusing on TikTok, I guess, in the sense that I'm just reaping the most benefits from it, and it's helping me sell tickets, but it doesn't take away the fact that I'm posting more or less the same shit on everything.
Now you have somebody editing your podcast, I presume, and like your clips and everything. Is it the same person or what?
So my clips for my special was somebody. Then I that you just can outsource and find different people. Yeah. Our podcast is completely different. We have a producer / partner. Like, she's a partner in our business, Nicole, and she is one of the more talented, creative people that I've ever been able to work with on that end, because she's insanely funny herself, doesn't want to be a comedian, but it like gets her jokes out in the edit. So the stuff that I am doing, she'll see a joke on the joke where she's able to cut something in, or, pivot an old quote from an old episode to disprove what I just said. Yeah. Like, she just has this really great working mind where she's able to add to the comedy by her abilities as an editor. Right.
And like, I mean, what kind of, in terms of like when you talk about like doing the special together and like getting clips from that, what do you kind of look for when you have somebody editing it and then putting it out on TikTok? Are you doing like 60 clips and then you'll do one every day, 2 every day, kind of like that?
I'm
strategy behind that. I mean,
there isn't. There should be, but there isn't. I just kind of know around the time I should post, but I have noticed that the ones that do the best are kind of geared towards a specific group of people. You know what I mean? What I can personally speak to is now being a dad, married, all that shit, smoking weed while being a dad. just that kind of like that stuff from me personally works the best. Like, that's what people respond to the most. I am not a take guy. Schultz, for instance, is really brilliant at coming up with takes and opinions on everything and has an original spin pretty much on any topic. I'm not necessarily like that, but my opinions come out through my bits. So you can kind of get to what I'm talking about or what I think based on how I discuss something that's going on personally.
Absolutely. Listen to what Mike has to say, his opinions personally, in North Carolina, December 10th.
Yeah, right? And 11th,
December 10th and 11th, that's the next time you're on the road.
Yeah, Dead Crow.
Do you enjoy being on the road? How do you usually get to these places? Are you flying, taking a tour bus, and then just spending nights there?
Yeah, dude, what? I'm dropping a milli on a tour bus and just netting negative $999,000.
No, but dude, only time will tell, man. So you just bouncing around to these clubs, and for the most part, what, you doing like 3 shows?
4. So Dead Crow is 2 nights, 4 shows, 2 shows each night. And I mean, I'm flying down there, bringing Sagalo, which is always fun when you get to bring a friend as an opener. Does not happen all the time for me because, I'm getting there, but I'm not well known or have that much pull just yet. But it's always great when you can do it with a buddy, especially for me, because there is a physical pull back home with my son and my wife. Like, I'm just missing things if I'm not around. So there's like, if I can keep myself occupied as much as possible, then that helps it go by faster.
And he is doing 15 minutes and you're doing an hour?
He's doing like 20, 25, and I'm doing an hour.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And you like North Carolina.
I've never been there, or never been there to do comedy.
Well, then what's been your favorite state doing comedy?
I mean, I love Chicago. I've done Chicago a few times.
Which one, the Zane?
I've done Zanies, downtown, both times, and man, it's just super fun. But I did like a guest spot at the Laugh Factory. That was really fun.
That's
in Chicago. I did Parlor Car years ago, which was like an alt show in Chicago. Wow. That was super fun. So I mean, the crowds are just consistently good because they're the great mix of like culture meets blue collar. So you always want to have both because you want people smart, but then you also don't want them to be pussies that like, you know, wince at every strong punch or whatever that, you know, isn't necessarily morally righteous.
Sure.
You know?
So Chicago being your favorite city, have you had like I mean, I guess I'll ask your least favorite city to do comedy, but also have you had a memorable kind of meltdown on stage when it's been, you know, not at an open mic, not like a guest spot where you're doing maybe like 15, 20 minutes and you're like, oh shit, like I'm dying up here, as they say.
Yeah, I mean, I've done like I've done fundraisers that are less than ideal, where it's like I did a fundraiser for like this fantasy football group that has been meeting up for 28 years. Oh, wow. They did it before computers. Like that's how long. And so they're these old shit kicker dudes in who the hell knows where, New Jersey, and it's at a bar with 1 million TVs. Yeah. Like literally the walls are just lined and they didn't turn any of them off. And I'm standing in front of the games they're betting on, performing an hour of stand-up, and they're justifiably livid and like, what the fuck? Like, why do we do this every year? Like, they do it every year, and every year they have to remind themselves that they don't want to do it the next year, and then they black out and they hire a comedian the next year.
How'd they find you in that particular instance?
This was like through a club owner. Who, and again, it's fine money, so I'm willing to take a few tomatoes for, especially at the time, to make some money. But yeah, that's just an hour of accepting defeat.
Sure. Well, you spend time at like every great comedy club, probably in the country now, right? You'd say?
No. I mean, there's a lot of markets that I'd like to go, like Acme in Minneapolis. I've never been. I've heard that's incredible. Right. I've never been to Denver Comedy Works. I've heard that's incredible. I'm lucky enough to go out to Seattle next year, and I'm going to do Laughs. I've heard that's a great city. Yeah. You know, I've definitely. I mean, I've been to Jordan, Kuwait, and Bahrain. The comedy has taken me to some pretty interesting places.
Well, I mean, all the places that you name are, you know, inevitably you're gonna do them. You know what I mean?
I hope so. Yeah.
So, you know, being in all these markets, seeing all these different comedians, do you have a favorite comic that's like not biased, or someone that someone's like not on your podcast, or someone that maybe people would not know?
Oh, interesting. I mean, maybe somebody that people might not know. He's like relatively well known, but to us, you know, like people outside of comedy might not know him. But my favorite comedian is Kurt Metzger.
Kurt Metzger.
Okay. He's my favorite comic. I think his stand-up is unbelievable. He has an hour called White Precious.
What happened with him? He had some like Me Too movement, maybe. If you're free
no,
what happened with that?
Kurt was an early adopter of extended Facebook posts in anger and argument against a popular belief system, which I found to be very funny. But he, you know, definitely had some moments where he said some wild shit, and I think a lot of articles were written about him and blah blah blah.
He was maybe like on the forefront of it, because I remember this was a few years ago.
Oh, it was when, like, I mean, I won't even bring it up because the comic doesn't deserve the bullshit he got. But a comedian told a rape joke that certainly wasn't making fun of the act of rape or the victim, but it was under the umbrella of a rape joke, and then just got an onslaught of hate from a few bloggers that were pointing out how rape jokes are unacceptable in comedy. I'm not you know, whatever. Kurt on behalf, like, basically took up for him, which was cool because that comic was younger and was like, hey, fuck you, fuck this, and that's bullshit, and, you know, whatever. And so I think he's just he's a really outspoken dude who certainly has complex opinions, but that makes a great stand-up in my mind. I'm not looking to him for voting advice. Like, I'm not looking to him for any real commentary on anything. He's fucking hilarious and also happens to be really smart.
Do you have any jokes maybe that you've told now, previously before that, you know, before the cancel days, or are you worried at all about being canceled for anything that you're saying in your hour sets? No,
I mean, not in my sets, on podcasts for sure. Okay. I'm sure I've made horrible, awful jokes as recently as last week. Like it's all in the attempt to be funny. So I truly don't.
Thin line.
Yeah, but I mean, you can't, if I'm a comedian and I'm trying my best to be funny, and this is what I've dedicated my life to. If I'm thinking about people's feelings, it's just kind of a tough course to slalom where you have to be able to fuck up. You have to make the mistakes. You have to go for big swings, and you learn what the line is by the reaction. So what people don't understand is that when somebody makes an awful rape joke and the crowd is basically punishing them with silence and disdain, they've basically learned their lesson. And if they didn't, then don't worry, they won't be successful. And the only way to elevate their voice is for you to pay attention to it.
Favorite comedy club in New York City? If you can't shoot yourself in the foot, you let me know right now. But favorite comedy club in New York?
I have two. The Comedy Cellar and New York Comedy Club. New York Comedy Club was my first home club. It's where I recorded my first hour. Yeah, it's Emilio and that entire staff is legitimate family. I love them. And then the Comedy Cellar is just, it's one of the best comedy clubs in the entire universe, and it lives up to its name every time you perform there. It's packed crowds who are there intentionally. They didn't just get barked in from wherever the fuck. Sure. And it's exciting. They're dressed up like it's the 80s. It's a night out.
So in terms of Comedy Cellar, Comedy Cellar, for those of you who don't know, very strict kind of pass process. A lot of clubs in the city do have pass processes where you need to tell X amount of jokes for X amount of minutes, and people decide at the club if you're funny or not. When did you start performing at the Comedy Cellar? Get passed.
I think I was there like. I think I've been there. Yeah, I think so. I think I was there. I've been there for 4 years or 4 or 5 years. I did shoot my special there. It's called Life Begins. It's on YouTube for free if anybody wants to watch it. And I feel the reason why I did it, one is because of course my son was about to be born, so I wanted to do this material about the pregnancy and the experience of him just being born, and two, because the way I got into the Comedy Cellar is kind of a weird story. And
Colin Quinn, right? Yeah, please tell the story.
So I never, I always, obviously, it was a huge dream of mine.
Also, just before you tell the story, it's also just about like fucking timing too.
Yeah, 100%. So the Comedy Cellar has always been a goal of mine because I'm a huge fan of comedy. Like I've read all the books. I know all the comedians from New York. I was a huge Tough Crowd fan. I was a huge Opie and Anthony fan. I immersed myself in stand-up even before I did it. So the Comedy Cellar to me was always the mecca, which is why, out of respect, I never pushed for an audition. I was always like, hey, when it comes, it comes. It'll happen when it's right. I will, of course, want to be there. I'd be lucky to be there, but I'm not going to be one of those guys who's like, just trying to weasel his way in instead of earn it. So, that obviously makes the process longer. And I had just been, I had been headlining already. My album was out, blah, 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 all that shit. And I'm just hanging out at the Comedy Cellar with Chris DiStefano and his daughter, and we were eating dinner. And Liz, the manager, was sitting with us, and she got a text that said Colin Quinn had a heart attack. He was supposed to do his hour-long show. Chris was opening for him in one of the secondary rooms, or in Fat Black Lounge at the Comedy Cellar. And so obviously he couldn't do it. He had a heart attack. Liz, for the first time, looked at me as a comedian and was like, do you want to do a half hour? She's like, do you and Chris want to split this? And I was like, yeah. Like I almost said no because I actually had just come off of some anxiety shit, and like I had a panic attack on stage the weekend before. It's like this whole thing. But of course it's like, yes, you have to. Yes, I will do a half hour. Turned out I did 20 minutes because Rich Voss also jumped on the show, but Voss and Chris both threw new bits out. So they were just, trying shit out. They're comfortable and they're standing at the club. They don't have to crush every single time. And so I ended up closing the show, which is preposterous behind those two people. And I threw every fastball that I had, every single A bit, and I had a great 20-minute set. And Liz sent that tape to Esty, and then a few months later I finally got the audition.
Wow, man. Nice. That's a pretty crazy story. And like Colin Quinn obviously acknowledges that was a wild occurrence. Did you know Colin Quinn before that?
Yeah, a little bit, like here or there, like not much, just in passing. People. Yeah, he knew my name. I obviously am a huge fan of his, so he just like that.
Okay. Favorite moment in comedy? If I can ask you that, ma'am. That sounds like an insane moment. Maybe that might be your favorite, but I also wanted to see if be anything else. Maybe at a show. I saw you did a show in Astoria. I don't know how many people were there, but like just anything in particular where you're like, wow, that was a really fucking fun night. Well, besides the Ted Jones comedy show, of course.
That always is my favorite moment each and every time. But I think a show that I did with Bobby Kelly, I think it was over the summer. We did some like country club in Westchester, and in Connecticut, and it was in an insane rich area of Connecticut. I mean, like like people from CNN and whoever the fuck. Yeah, it was like
I might have been there.
It was insane. I don't even know where it was. I just know driving there made me feel really bad about myself because I'm just seeing how humans live or can live.
Opulent.
But that show was like insane, like really hot, just one of those that was from the get-go just super good, no real effort in terms of winning them, but you they fed your performance, so it was just bigger and more fun and taking my time and all that stuff. And that show in particular was just a really fun one.
Dream gig. An interesting one, whether it's on stage at the Beacon Theater, MSG, friggin' hitting LA, the Crypto.com Center, not even the Staples Center anymore.
That's right.
The Lakers are fucked, huh? All right, go ahead. Favorite game.
I actually think they're going to make a tremendous amount of money.
From that.
I wonder if they took some of the sale in Bitcoin.
I really hope they did.
It would only make sense.
Talk about Bitcoin and crypto in here, and if people don't have it, I'm like, what are you doing, guys? Even if you're going to lose it. Whatever. Even if you're gonna fucking lose it, the chances are you won't lose it, and you'll be insanely rich in 10 years. Find a lotto ticket.
Dream gig in comedy. I think it's probably a theater in New York. I don't know if I have. I mean, I guess Carnegie Hall would be something.
That's dope. Or like Radio City Music Hall. The same amount of seats, maybe.
No, Radio City is like 6,000. Oh, Carnegie, I don't know how many of that is. So I was just thinking about MSG. I do think MSG is probably also like, because I'm a big Knicks fan. I'm a huge hoops guy. I got to practice on the Knicks court when I was in high school.
Nice.
And I literally knelt down and kissed like the logo in the middle because it's that important to me. Sure. Hoops is that important to me. And so the idea of being able to perform where all those incredible games and Knicks and Michael Jordan and LeBron, I mean, that would be pretty fucking dope, I guess.
That's fucking great. Mike Cannon, thank you so much for joining us here on the
Thanks for having me, buddy.
Couch, man. 191. If it's not episode 191, I'm probably going to edit this part out, but I'm pretty confident it is 191. Dude, how many episodes are you in on Here's a Scenario Pod?
Not 191. Okay. That's incredible. Good for you.
Thank you, man. So it's been like 2.5 years in the making. We started off, the first year I was just doing it once a week, and then I had like a sidekick co-host here for about 60 episodes.
Okay.
And we were doing 3 episodes a week.
Holy shit.
Right when the pandemic hit, but now we're doing twice a week, Mondays and Thursdays, and then obviously you guys know Ted Jones vlog Tuesdays and Fridays. And if you guys have not been to a Ted Jones comedy show yet, check the link in this YouTube video. You're listening on Apple Podcasts, click that link right there too. Spotify, link right there. Amazon Music, link right there. Mike, plug yourself, dude, before I friggin' plug myself to death over you.
At I am Mike Cannon on all social media, MikeCannonComedy.com for dates. I'm doing Wilmington, North Carolina, Austin, Texas, Boston, and Seattle, a bunch of places coming up. Very excited about that. And probably filming my next special in February. So make sure you subscribe to my YouTube. It's likely where it's going to go. Mike Cannon Comedy on YouTube.
So you are in the middle of finding out where you're going to record this hour, or you have the
we have a loose agreement, but I don't want to announce it yet because it is that. It's a loose agreement. Okay. Yeah.
All right,
but very excited. Likely, potentially February 18th. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so it's almost being signed.
Yeah,
Hopefully we'll see if I get the inside squeeze after, but I can't tell you guys anyway, so don't fucking worry about it. Do you like the sign? Ted Jones with a sign.
I love the sign.
Dude, hilarious. And, there was a map here before, and then I just fucking I was like, all right, I'll just fucking go 5 out of 10 on the...
Do you keep it up?
Yeah, bro, I do.
You do?
I do, man. That's the same thing as in my bathroom. I gotta fucking remember who the fuck I am, dude. I'm like, what's that movie? 50 First Dates when Drew Barrymore finds out.
Yeah.
What's Memento?
Memento is the Christopher Nolan one where he tattoos details and reminders all over his body.
So like using a pen, but like it's tattooed.
Tattooed, yeah, because he does not remember any. Like he remembers the day as he's awake, and then it restarts.
You have tattoos. I've thought about getting a smiley face here, a little small one, like that, and then a heart on my ankle. People are like, "That is fucking gay," or "That's cool." It's got like a middle between for you. You're like,
just do it.
Whatever. And it's on my feet, from the ground up, some shit like that.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
I don't think anybody should be able to tell you what you put on your body.
Fuck yeah,
do whatever you do.
Yeah, exactly. How many tattoos do you have before we get out of here?
1, 2, 3, 4.
I saw you have one on your back from that movie.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, only 4.
And you got them over
the course since I was 18. That one, that fucking upper back tramp stamp, definitely when I was 18 years old. And that came after I got this one, which I like. And then this one was like, I just need more. And it's a fucking
fuck yeah, dude. Well, it tells a story.
Gaelic knot.
It tells a story.
Yeah.
Guys, no freaking cuts this episode unless I fucked up that episode number.
I think it's killer.
Thank you, bro. Thank you so much. Guys, Mike Cannon, what a guy. Follow this guy, all right? We'll see you guys soon. Peace.